Okay, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Salatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya wal Mursaleen. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما تعلمنا وزدنا من فضلك علما وتعليما إنك على كل شيء قدير. Okay, so we mentioned you have to be Muslim. Is it true that you have to reach puberty in order to be obliged to fast?
Yes.
So a child
No.
doesn't have to fast.
No, well, just that I think you said this, Sheikh, that it is sinful if we do not tell our children to fast, but there's no sin on the child for anything done before puberty.
Exactly. Thank you. So we are obliged to make sure they fast if they're 7 and if they're physically able. But they are not obliged to do anything. They're not sinful for anything they may do. Okay, great. And they don't have to do qada, right? So if you're Muslim, you have to, and you don't fast, you're gonna have to do qada. If you reach puberty and didn't fast, you're gonna have to do qada. If you are sane, you're gonna have to make it up. If you are sane and you didn't fast, you're gonna have to make it up. Okay? What if you were insane? Do you have to fast?
No.
No, you don't have to pray either.
Right. You have to pray either, right? So, okay. Are you able to fast? So is that really a condition of obligation or not? So I'm really, really sick. I'm temporarily really, really sick. I've just come out of an operation. The doctor says you need to take this medication for the next whatever week, and you can make sure you have to get, you have to drink and you have to do this and you have to do that, etc. Okay. So you're temporarily not able to fast. Are you obliged to fast?
No.
Is this a trick question, Sheikh?
It's not obligatory on you to fast.
Did we lose him? Is he testing us?
Is everyone else still here?
I am.
Yeah, me too.
My apologies. Just we're getting ready to travel, and the kids are
We thought you were testing us.
the kids are doing their best thing. They're working their best. They're doing their what's it called? They're doing their job. Okay, Bismillah. So what I was gonna say was I am temporarily too sick to fast. Do I have to fast?
No.
No.
Do I have to I don't have to fast at all?
No, for the time period where you're not legally obligated to fast because of illness or insanity or something.
Okay, so insanity is one thing. Insanity is the obligation does not register. Okay, so let's look at the obligation to fast, like the obligation to pay US taxes. Okay, so I'm English, have an English passport, I'm not a US citizen. Okay, but I'm working in the US. Do I have to pay taxes in the US?
Your taxes
Yes.
are going to be taken out of your paycheck anyway.
Right, you're gonna have to do that. Okay, so now I am not in the US and I'm not a US citizen. Do I have to pay taxes?
No.
Let's say before I haven't had a green card or anything. right? So that's like the insane person. It does not register, period. Okay, it does not register, period. Okay, so here though, when you say you were able to fast, what this means then is, would you mean temporarily or do you mean permanently? If you say I am temporarily not able to fast, this is like me sending a letter to the IRS saying, listen, I need permission for my company to file taxes later. And they looked at the situation, they said, looking at the consideration, yes, we give you an extension. Okay, but I'm registers though. So a woman who's on her period, okay, a person who is sick, a person who is traveling, they are obliged to fast, but just not now. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So a
They are
woman who's on a
given.
period, it's not possible for her to fast, but it still registers for her. She still has to fast later. I'm temporarily sick. Okay, don't fast now. Fast in a month, 2 months, whenever it is. It does register though. Okay, as opposed to somebody who's insane, it doesn't register for them because they're not in that realm. They're not in the category of somebody who's morally responsible at all. Okay, so if you are not able to fast in that you are on your period or your postnatal bleeding or you are temporarily sick, right? Or you are traveling right now, you're not obliged to fast right now, but you are obliged to fast in general. As opposed to somebody who is permanently incapable of fasting. I have a medical condition. I've had it since I was a child. I have to take this medication every day. I have to stay hydrated. The doctor says I have to drink 4 liters of water every day. I have to be drinking every 2 hours. That's just that's how it is, right? This person now shifts into another obligation, which is they have to feed the poor. Okay, so they shift into feeding the poor. That's something different. So chronic illness, you shift to paying the poor. Temporarily illness, I'm breastfeeding. I'm my first trimester, my last trimester, whatever it is, temporary issue, it still registers and you're going to do qada. Go ahead, Noor.
For the one who, in terms of the sound mind condition, is that what if someone started the day fasting with a sound mind and then lost his soundness? Would that be a makeup day for him?
Yeah, it's going to be a makeup day. So now because he's there for some of the time it registers, but he's not there for some of the time, it doesn't count. So he still has to do qada.
Hmm.
Does that make sense?
How about if he regained kind of sanity before Maghrib,
Yeah,
but
so
he started in
if you
Fajr?
are insane for any moment of the fasting day, okay, then the fast doesn't
Hmm.
count. But you still have to do
Hmm.
qada. As opposed to I wasn't sane for the fasting day. Okay?
Hmm.
Therefore, I'm not responsible to fast aslan,
Hmm.
right? So it's like a prayer. The prayer time came in, okay, and then I went insane. So what do I have to do? When I become sane again, may Allah protect us all, I'm gonna have to do qada of that prayer because the prayer time came in and rested on my it registered. Registered in my responsibility. The prayer time came in. I was sane for 10 minutes. I had the time to make wudu, put clothes on, and pray. I didn't do it. Okay, I'm not sinful. And then I lost my sanity. Okay, so what happens? It registers. The responsibility registers, but so I have to do it later on, as opposed to before, from before Dhuhr till Maghrib, I was insane. I was insane. Okay, so now, well, I was in a coma. I was in a coma, and I came out of my coma in Maghrib time. Dhuhr and Asr, I do not have to be. There's no qada because I was not in the realm of taklif at that time. I wasn't in the realm of responsibility. It's like I didn't exist morally. I was amoral, if that makes sense, at that time. Does that make sense?
Yes, Jazakumullah khairan.
Right.
If it's a follow-up,
So just one thing about break. We'll talk about this afterwards, but in terms of mental state, right? Mental state when you're fasting, insanity, any moment of insanity during the fasting day, right, will break the fast. Okay. Any a complete amount of intoxication, if you were under general anesthetic or intoxicated or knocked out for the whole time, the fast wouldn't count. Okay. But then If you are asleep the whole time, it's fine. So when you talk about like mental state while fasting, there's three levels. Insanity, any moment of insanity during the fasting day, the fasting period would break the fast, right? Because you've left moral responsibility for a moment. So therefore you didn't do the whole thing. Okay. Then you have stage 2, which is like in a coma not so coma is slightly different, but under general anesthetic under the influence of drugs, and you were totally not there. Not that you're spiked. What's the phrase? Not that you're what's the word? Somebody you feel something, but
Buzz.
buzzed. Thank you. Right. You're not buzzed, but you're actually like out of it. Like you can't communicate, you can't walk, you can't function. Okay, so that throughout the whole day, the person, so may Allah protect us, the person got drunk. He said, "Oh man, I got drunk in Ramadan, and I was drunk until midday." Right? Does my fast count? I said, fast counts because it wasn't mutbiq, it wasn't the whole time. Right? It wasn't the whole time. Right? So as long as you are sober for some part of the fasting day or out of general anesthetic for some part of the fasting day, it counts. As for sleep, if you slept the whole time, it would count. So you went to sleep before Fajr and woke up after Maghrib, and you had the niyyah to fast before, the fast would count. Okay, so these are the 3 levels of kind of the state of the mind. Okay, go ahead, Sham.
I'm sorry, about the last point. Insanity was level 1, level 2 was coma, general anesthesia. What was the third level?
Sleep.
Sleep. Okay. The question I had, Sheikh,
So
was
with
something.
coma, though, I think it's different. Coma, I don't think I think it's category number 1. I got to double check. I think a coma is not the same as mughma alayhi. Mughma alayhi is you pass out, concussion, drugs, general anesthetic. But I think a coma counts as insane. Allahu alam. I got to double check, inshallah.
Okay. The question I had was related to this, which we've talked about before, where you're saying about being insane. I guess there's 2 questions, Sheikh. The first is, who gets to decide about the medical exemption? Is that up to an alim to decide for?
Yeah, so
Because,
basically, so the thing is, it's because your question basically is the idea that insanity is not one thing. It's not like, oh yeah, I'm insane, I'm not insane. It's
well,
not like
also
that.
I'm thinking about my friend's son who has Down syndrome, or someone I know who is a functioning person on the autism spectrum.
Yeah.
Where do they?
So basically, in Allah's eyes, it's on a grade. So you are relatively responsible, if that makes sense. There's a realm that you could actually do and you couldn't do. In our level, I'm interested as a mufti or a qadi, is it sane or insane? Does that make sense? So that's so what could happen then is this, for example, this person, he had what is it called? What's it this he had what's it called, an episode? It's called they call it.
Like a psychotic episode?
Yeah. So but I couldn't prove that, right? So basically we had the guy killed, So he bipolar. So what if I'm bipolar and I can't prove it? You know? So the judge or the mufti is looking at the situation and says, I don't have enough evidence to label you as bipolar. So therefore, I have to treat you as somebody who is sane. So therefore, the divorce counts. You're a murderer. Sorry. So you could imagine that in the eyes of the court, certain people could be executed, right? So they could be all certain things, but in reality, in Allah's eyes, it's not true. You know, just like what would happen if you were framed for committing zina, right? I am a judge for people who are known to be upright. Come to me and we say, Sham did this, 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 this. 100% valid thing. Like, what am I going to do? So the court can't judge on reality. It just judged with the process. So what if the process fails, right? Like, we couldn't actually prove that he was bipolar. So, and that happens, right? Many people like are bipolar, and then it's like things happen, and then there's like the problem with the police and problem with the police, and then they realize, hang on a minute, the guy's bipolar, she's bipolar. And they're like, oh, so this person was jailed, this person had all these issues, and and now it's like this, right? So So the issue is the mufti or the qadi cannot deal with a grade, a level of insanity, either sane or insane. That's how he has to work with things, right? Whereas
I get,
Allah is not going to deal with things like that, right?
but Shaykh, calling someone, there are people who are high functioning autistic who no one could call them insane, but they also may not be able to take care of themselves. Like they can't drive, they can't work, they can't whatever, but is fasting still obligated on them?
So that's the thing, Shem. You come and ask me, and I say, "What is your name? Can you walk? Can you talk? Can you do this?" Is yes, you have to fast. Okay. They meet Allah having had not fasted, right? And in their mind, it's a very different thing, right? And they meet Allah, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He understands their situation. He created their situation. Like He knows the nuance of the situation. I, as the person who's outside of his mind, as the person who's giving the fatwa, I can say sane or insane. Does that make sense? That's all I can do,
Yes, okay.
right? It's just like, you have a student. She was so good, right? She could have passed that course, but like it's like, you know, she didn't do the final exam, but you knew she had a reason. So like how good she is, but you can't give her the grade, because that's what this is how the process is. I can't grade something that's not there. And you're like, oh my God, Sally, you were doing so well. We had so many good discussions. What happened? She's like, oh, this happened and that happened. You're like, ugh. And then you go and talk to the dean, and the dean can't do anything. It's like, oh man, she has to redo the course. All right. That's just the nature of a process. So we have a process, but that's not real, right? Like the fatwa is not reality. It's just the game
Yes.
that we're playing. Like fiqh is like, oh, this is halal, haram, and this. It's like, okay, thank you guys. On Judgment Day, we played our game, we did what we were supposed to do, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will judge between people.
I
Like,
understand.
come up to me and I say, Sheikh, I'm feeling really down. Can I listen to music? And I say, are you psychotic or not? And you're like, if it's a medical issue, you can listen to it, otherwise not. In reality, like, who am I to, I can't tell you like how much you need something. And or like, how difficult was it not to punch somebody in the face? Like you're just so angry and this person like, ah. So then I was like, I was kind of like almost not there. But I'm gonna say, you're a sane individual, you punch him in the face. There we go. Haram. But Allah's gonna judge you, right? Like my difficulty in your alcoholism, right? Certain people will have genes that are just like one sip and that's it, they're gone. It's like their genes make them like that. It's just how they are. And so I'm going to say, was he sane? Was he not sane? He's sane. Did he drink? He drank. Okay. Did he drive over the person? Yes. Okay. Khalas. So here's a sane person who was drink driving and they killed somebody. Okay. Now the family has a right to this person to be executed. What can I do? But Allah will judge how difficult was it? The difficult this. Allah's going to judge, right? How hard is it, to wear a hijab? I'm not saying that what Allah said thinks about you, sister. I'm just saying what I'm obliged to label it as. Does that make sense, Shan?
Yes, thank
And that's
you.
why we should never judge anybody, right? Like you see somebody else, for example, who's really rude. Like, how difficult is it to be polite? Maybe for you, you're very calm. Maybe for them, they're not very calm, you know?
Also, Sheikh, would it be fair to say that part of, along with what you just said, the adab of being Muslim is not really, don't ask people if why they're not fasting.
Yes,
Would that
true.
be a fair thing?
Okay, well, it depends, Sham, okay? You see me, okay? And you're like, oh, you're not fasting. You're like, are you traveling, Freed? I'm like, no. Like, you're not traveling. No. Oh, you're sick. You get no. So my haq on you is you're like, Fareed, for crying out loud. You've been teaching us for all these years. You say this, what's going on, bro? And I'm like, yeah, things happen and that happen. You're like, no, Fareed, wake up. So my haq on you is that you call me out, right? Because I'm supposed to have strong iman and like not acting I have strong iman. You know what I'm saying? So it's not true to say don't ask people, but who do you ask, right? So that you see somebody who is supposed to do what is right, you can call them up privately. You privately sit with the sheikh like, sheikh, I saw you talking to that sister. That's not how you speak to sisters, bro. Like, me and you, we know. So you can call somebody out privately and be a bit harsh with them when they will benefit from that. right? It's like, Sheikh, this is not what you taught us. I'm sorry. I love you. I respect you. I'm still benefiting from you, but this isn't right, Sheikh. You know, that's the haqq that you have on your brother, right? To command the right and forbid the wrong. But the issue is, well, the other side, the sister, the brother, they don't have strong iman. It's not even an issue of right or wrong. It's just not effective to be harsh. You know? You know what I'm saying?
Yes, no,
Right. So
I
one
completely
person is
understand.
like, you see me smoking weed, right? And you knock it out of my hand of his sheikh. This is not what you should somebody else be doing. Fear Allah, right? And I'm like, like, oh my God, I'm embarrassed and I'm this and I'm that, right? Somebody else, you're like, dude, you know, good old days, right? And they're like joking, like, oh, really? Like, I remember doing this with a taxi driver in Jordan. I said he was smoking, right? They smoke a lot in Jordan. You know, it's different, very difficult life, um, and for various reasons, may make it easy. But anyway, so like I'm in a taxi and the taxi driver is smoking. So I said, oh, can I have a cigarette? And he's like looking at me with a beard and a hat and a thobe. He's like just like shocked, right? And then he starts laughing, right? I broke the ice, right? That's what it is. Different kind of thing, right? Now I've opened the door. So as opposed to, like, I had another situation where I was in the car and the guy had just lit a cigarette, and I said, "Do you mind?" You know, I just asked him, "Do you mind not smoking?" He literally stopped the car and said, "Do you want to get out? Like, you can get out if you want, not a problem." Like that's how it is. That's like, you know, so it wasn't useful, right? There wasn't a useful way of commanding someone to forbid, you know, it is haram, even if you're stressed, right? It's still haram. You're killing yourself. It's reality. But it's just like I did it in the wrong way, and I mean I didn't mean to do it in the wrong way. Does that make sense, Sham? So some people, you be harsh with them, right? And they benefit from that. They're like, bro, this is not how I know you. Why are you doing this? What's your problem? Right? Your friend's cheating on his wife. You're like, bro, I will, I will tell her. Don't worry. You can't tell her. It's haram to do that. But you say, I will tell her. In fact, I will put it on the whole group. If you don't stop, or if I think you haven't stopped, I'm going to post this everywhere. You're going to lose your job. You're going to lose your marriage. You're going to lose your respect and everything. Stop. So it's a white lie, right? So you came down harsh because he knows that he's doing the wrong. Okay. Whereas somebody else, the joke is, hey, dude, can I have let's have a drag? You know, I don't know what you call it in America, but you know, so now that it's like you've broken the ice with them, right? How are you doing, sister? How, you know, whatever, you know, you start talking to her, open the door, and then you can start talking about, you know, other things. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah. And a lot of time, people don't even know things. That's another issue, you know? Like they don't even know what like I remember this, I got, you know, told off for this many times, was like assuming that other people know what you're talking about, you know? So for example, oh, sister, you're wearing tight clothes. Tight is fairly relative, you know? And so you're like, you know, like what does that even mean? Or, you know, she grew up in Pakistan and she's like started wearing hijab and her hair sticking out because she understands that it's okay for your hair to stick out because everybody does that, you know? Like you just don't know things. So slamming somebody for something A, they don't know about, B, they're not really guilty about, they don't feel guilty about. It's not particularly, you know, whereas if somebody who's like, I know I'm doing the wrong and I accept it, and then you slam me and that, you could actually help me, you know? And it does help people sometimes. One brother became Muslim like that. You know, he became Muslim and then he told his friend, he said, hey, I become Muslim, and I just want to tell you that you know, Allah sent Prophet Muhammad, and He told everybody to believe in him, and He said anybody who does not believe in him will go to hell. So I'm telling you this, and that's it. Goodbye. And the guy became Muslim. So he was harsh or very frank, and the firmness helped him, right? Somebody else, it's not useful. So you just have to look at the situation, who you're talking to. You know, as it's in Arabic, لِكُلِّ مَقَامٍ مَقَالٍ. Every situation has a thing there. Okay, great. So able to fast, what do you mean? Like right? Do you mean not able to fast, meaning it's not legally possible to me to fast right now because you're on your period? Or do you mean you're temporarily too sick to fast? Right? That's two different issues, right? And then classic issue that many people ask, they say, Sheikh, I've had like 5 pregnancies. I never fasted during my pregnancy, and then I didn't fast either while I was breastfeeding. So like, what do I do? How much do I have to pay? That's what they ask you, right? 10 years later, how much do you have to pay? The answer is you have to pay anything. Okay, what do you have to do then? What do you have to
Make
do?
it up.
You have to do qada, right? And is that just the Shafi school? It's like, no, it's the Shafi school and the Maliki school and the Hanbali school and the Hanafi school, right? That's by agreement of the former madhahib, right? I didn't used to fast,
So
and
they have to pay also, right, Sheikh?
paying is something
Don't they have to
else.
pay?
Paying is something else, and that's an issue of debate. But I'm just talking about something that's agreed upon. If you did not fast for a temporary excuse, you have to make up the fast. End of story. So like you're telling me I have to do like 10 years of fast, I have to do like 300 days of fast. I say, yeah, you have to do 300 days of fast. And they're like, yeah, but how much do I have to pay? Nothing. You don't pay anything because they just want to get out of it. They don't want to fast 300 days. Obviously, it's hard to fast 300 days, right? But that's the obligation, right? So there is another opinion that does exist outside of the form of madhab, right? Is that basically a woman who's pregnant or breastfeeding does no fast and no qada. She doesn't have to do anything, right? And this is narrated from Ishaq ibn Rahaway. But again, like, did he really say it? Allahu alam. I don't know. So whenever you step out of the form of dhahib, you always have a problem of like lack of clarity, and you don't really know what's going on. You know, it's like somebody did research on this. Okay, where is that? Can't find it. Whereas in the form of dhahib, you know what you're saying and you know that person said that. So we don't really know that, right? And so you will find in Ramadan people throwing these things around. Oh, it's okay if I'm on period, don't worry about it, right? So like Azhar, I think, has started to do things like that now, where they'll say, yeah, another position exists outside of the form of dhahib and make things easy for people. It's a very dangerous thing to do, right? And as I've mentioned to you, all of you many times, that my system and the system of my teachers is the form of dhahib. That's it. The deen is the form of dhahib. You want to follow a weaker position within the form of dhahib that exists, okay. But if it's not a position within the form of dhahib, it basically doesn't exist, right? So it's an important thing to know. Do you have to do that all right now? Oh, but I have 300 days to do. I have 600 days to do. Just do them bit by bit. It's okay, right? People fast Mondays to Thursdays. Go ahead.
Azhar as in Al Azhar in
Not
Egypt.
not as in yourself, Azhar. No, Azhar is in the university. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Azhar, they've started, Google it, like the 18 madhabs. They have things where they'll mention things that are outside of the form of their hib. You know, and it's very dangerous. It's not. That's not how I've been trained, and that's not normal Islam for the last 1,000 years. That's not. It's not a thing. Allahu A'lam. Sheikh Hamza as well, right? Sheikh Hamza as well, same kind of issue, right? So if you listen to Sheikh Hamza, he'll say things like that, and it gets very, very dangerous, you know. So I had a student, she said this to me once. She said, my teacher said that hijab is obligatory according to form of dhahib. What is he saying implicitly?
That it might not be.
Exactly. So here's the problem. You go outside of the form of dhahib, there's zero scholarly work happening. So it's vague enough to cause an argument. Does that make sense? Like it's vague enough to say, well, I just don't know what's going on. In that vagueness, you can kind of find something here or there. Does that make sense? So it's like saying, I don't know, like it's like saying I have, 3 treatments for this type of disease. This is what they do in Europe, this is what they do in England, this is what they do in America. And then there's another one which comes from the Himalayas. And it's like, where in the Himalayas? Which country are you talking about? Which system? What is it? Right? It's kind of like vague. And so you have this very vague thing, and you don't really know what it is. And we don't really know who said what. And so it's kind of it's a problem, right? We have no issue with being pluralistic. We don't have, it's not Shafi is not right necessarily. We know that. But the issue is like, at least, Sufyan al-Thawri said this. He said, "At-tashdidu yuhsinuhu kullu ahad." Being strict, anybody can do. Anybody can be strict, right? It's easy. He says, لكن الفقه الرخصة عن ثقة. He says, fiqh is giving dispensations from a sound source. So the issue is you want to make someone's life easy, but it's actually just confusing. You actually confuse them, and you ended up actually making a mistake. That will actually happen. Like you actually told them something that's not even real. It's like it's not even real. So and so is quoted to have said this, but then it's like, oh, actually, it's a mistake. They didn't. So now you gave a fatwa because it kind of exists out there, and it wasn't clear what was being said or whether that person really said it, and now you just roll with it, and you end up having crazy, kind of a crazy answer. So it's seriously problematic, right? If it was crystal clear, so and so, the great scholar said this, and we know what he says, and it's very clear that he said, and we know that he didn't reject it later on, fine. But it's just it's very problem. Whenever you step out of the form of dhahib, you're just in this realm of like confusion. You don't really know what's going on. No worries, Sham. Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Makes sense to everybody, inshallah? Okay. So then it says obligatory acts. So these are the conditions of obligation. Okay. Now, how do you do the fast itself? So it says وَفَرَائِضُ الصَّوْمِ أَرْبَعَةُ أَشْيَاءَ النِّيَّةُ وَالْإِمْسَاكُ عَنِ الْأَكْلِ وَالشُّرْبِ وَالْجِمَاعِ وَتَعَمُّدُ الْقَيْءِ. It says there are 4 obligatory actions, really 2, right? Or kind of 1, to intentionally not break your fast. That's what it means. To intentionally not break your fast. So how do you intentionally not break your fast? Well, number 1, you have an intention. When does the intention happen? It happens before you start the fast. Okay? So this is technically not really a niyyah. It's reality, a qasd, right? I guess you can label it as a niyyah. So the niyyah has to be between maghrib and fajr. So you broke your fast and in your head, yeah, I'm fasting tomorrow. Okay, great. Like I know I'm fasting tomorrow. That's called a niyyah. I have a resolve to fast tomorrow. Right? That's called a niyyah, right? So you woke up before Fajr. I'm intending to fast today. You went to sleep with the intention to fast the next day. That's fine, right? So what doesn't count as a niyyah is I'm really, really sick today. I didn't fast today. I went to sleep after Maghrib, okay, with the intention of waking up before Fajr to pray Isha. I slept until Fajr time, so I missed Isha, and now it's Fajr time. I feel good though. I feel okay. I think I can fast today. Yeah, but you did not do your niyyah, right? You had no intention of fasting the next day. You were going to wake up and see how things were. You had no intention of fasting the next day. Okay, so you didn't intend. So now what's going to happen is you're going to do imsak. Imsak is you are not going to do the things that you can't do while fasting, but you're not actually fasting. And you're going to have to do qada of that day. You're going to have to make it up later on. Okay? Or you were traveling, right? So you had no intention of fasting the next day. Okay? And then you realized, oh, I'm not actually traveling fiqh-wise. I got it wrong. So your intention was I'm not fasting the next day. Now it's Fajr and you're asking me a question. I say you're not traveling. Doesn't count as travel. I'm like, oh, so I have to fast today? So yeah. So what does that mean then? You had no intention of fasting today because you thought you were a traveler. It turned out you weren't a traveler, so you're going to have to fast. But you didn't intend. So what are you going to do? You're not going to eat and drink until the end of the day, and you're going to have to do qada. Does that make sense? So the best way to understand niyyah is the opposite of niyyah. What are you planning to do tomorrow? Are you planning to fast tomorrow? Yeah. Okay. But you're not planning to fast tomorrow. I didn't even know today was Ramadan. You turned up at the masjid, you haven't eaten, you haven't drank. You turn up at the masjid and everything, Ramadan Mubarak. It's like, oh man, today's the first day of Ramadan. I didn't know. I hadn't planned to fast today. I didn't have the niyyah to fast today. So you're going to have to not eat and drink, and you're going to have to do qada of that day. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Muhammad, Noor, makes sense, yeah?
Yes.
But do I have to say something? No, right? I just have to have a resolve to fast the next day, and that resolve has to be in my head somewhere between Maghrib of the previous night and Fajr. Okay,
And so that has to be renewed every night.
it's correct. So in the Shafi school, we consider fasting Ramadan to be 30 independent actions. Yeah. Whereas the
So we
Maliki,
don't have to.
go ahead.
So we don't have to make the intention to fast the whole month.
No. But for the Malikis, they consider it all to be one action, right? We're looking at it as 30 independent actions. They're looking at it as ruku' and sujud. So you don't have to intend to do ruku' because ruku' is part of the prayer. You've already intended to do the prayer, right? So they look at it like that, like a one action. We're looking at it through 30 actions, right? Excuse me. Okay, so intention, B, abstaining from, so not eating, not drinking, not having intercourse, and not inducing vomit. So when it says inducing vomit, in reality, that's the condition with all of these things. So when you say something breaks the fast, it has three conditions. Number one, I knew that it broke the fast. Number two, I remembered that it broke the fast. And number three, I intentionally did it. Right? So I just became Muslim and I had no idea that I could not drink when I was fasting. Because when you say fasting, right, you're going to have an operation. You can drink water, it's fine. When they say fasting, don't have things that are other than water, right? That's what we mean. So then you say fasting, well, you had no idea about intercourse. Like, how did that come in your mind, right? Fasting, on TV, though, they eat and it's eating. Like, you had no idea, right? Even as a kid, you might not have no idea because it doesn't apply to you. So you weren't educated. You were in a place where like nobody knows anything, and you had no internet, no access to anything, and you're like, I had no idea that had anything to do with anything, right? So if you don't know that something breaks the fast, it doesn't break the fast for you, as long as you're excused, right? As long as you're excused for that, as opposed to somebody who's like, how did you not know that, right? You've been here in the class for the last 3 years, and you mentioned it many times, but somehow it slipped your mind. We're going to say you're not sinful, but it does break your fast because that's not normal. وَالنَّادِرْ لَا حُكْمَ لَهُ, something that's rare and random, like somebody who's in a fiqh class for 5 years, but somehow managed to escape him that idea, or he's lives in a Muslim, goes to the masjid and he hears things like this every Ramadan. Again, he somehow escaped him. We're going to say no, khalas, right? As opposed to you grew up in the middle of nowhere. There's no telephone. There's no, middle of nowhere, and it's like, yeah, you just don't know much about Islam at all. That's different. Okay, so I know that it breaks my fast. I did it on purpose. I remember that it broke my fast. I remember that I'm fasting as well, right? So that's kind of two-sided, and I did it on purpose, right? So when it says ta'ammud al-qayt, to intentionally throw up, that means ta'ammud al-jima', you intentionally have intercourse, or intentionally drink, or intentionally, right? So, somebody at a gunpoint, somebody, for example, or forced water into your mouth, or, doesn't break the fast. Okay, so therefore, forgetting that you're fasting and drinking, forgetting that you can't drink while you're fasting, forgetting a certain rule, right? I forgot, or I didn't know that I can't put Q-tips in my ear, right? I never heard of that in my life. That something going in your ear would break your fast. I didn't know that. Okay, so therefore it didn't break your fast, but now it does break your fast. Oh, but now you forgot that it broke your fast. That doesn't matter either, right? So you have to intend. I did this on purpose. I knew that this broke my fast, and I remember that I'm fasting. I remember that this breaks my fast. Right? Some of these things have a few more criterion, or it's not so simple, but that's a general picture. Okie dokie. Go ahead, Noor.
So the things that you just mentioned, is that a case where, sometimes you hear this saying like ignorance is bliss and people refrain from seeking knowledge, but we're always taught we have to learn because it's obligatory upon us. But could someone like, apply that logic? Oh, as long as I don't know, it's not going to break it.
So it's not ignorance is bliss. It's not true because you don't have a better situation. You're not in a better situation than the person who knows, number one. Number two, we're assuming you had an excuse, right? So like let's imagine a time where there is, right, until very recently, no television, no internet, no books, right? I live in the middle of the desert. I live in that area between this, like, so like I know about Islam, but that's about it. There's key things I just don't know about the deen that any normal person would know today, right? So that's what I'm saying, is that you don't have access to knowledge, right? You're very far away. For you to seek sacred knowledge, it would be to do this thing would be like there's no ulama. There's one semi-imam in a village that's 5 miles from your house. And that's it. And on Eid, you go and see him. You know? So now I didn't know this information. Like you're genuinely excused for not knowing certain things, right? As opposed to me and you, that's not really, it's like you have internet, it's all over the place. It's not something that's not known, right? So ignorance is not bliss. And so even if we said you're excused, it doesn't mean you're in a better situation. Let's say, for example, ignorance is bliss. Here's this guy, he didn't know about Islam, so he just lived life normally, and he goes to paradise. Fantastic. Right? And here's the other person who's like, oh, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do this. Are they literally on the same rank on Judgment Day? No, they're not. They're not. So Jannah is not Jannah, it's not the same thing. So the person who knew the truth and acted upon the truth is not like the person who didn't know about the truth. Right? It's not the same at all. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's definitely exactly.
So ignorance is bliss in some things, right? Like, wouldn't it be disgusting, for example, if you could see inside people's stomachs and see them digesting food, or like, or wouldn't it be horrible if you could see in people's minds? Like I can walk past 10 people and see everything in their mind. It's not very nice, is it? So ignorance is bliss on some levels. Like I don't want to see things. Like imagine if you were in paradise, but you were continually seeing what's happening in hell. Like it wouldn't be paradise, would it? So being ignorant of what's happening in paradise is a bliss, right? But ignorance in general is not a bliss. It's not a fadila. It's not a merit, right? وَعَلَّمَ آدَمَ الْأَسْمَاءَ كُلَّهَا, right? Like knowing is better than not knowing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. So it says things that invalidate the fast. So the fast is invalidated if one of the following 10 things occur. To anything intentionally reaching a body cavity, including the brain, chest, and abdomen, right? So as opposed to the leg, right? So something going inside your leg, something going inside your arm, piercing your ear, right? Does not break the fast. Whereas something goes inside your head, right? You snorted something up past the cartilage. So it went past the cartilage and it's now right in that area there, whatever it's called, none of us has here. Whatever that thing is called. Azhar, are you still here? No, it's not there. Anyway, that area there. Okay. Swallowing something, right? Insertion of something into the anus, urethra, or vagina. So something goes inside you like that. So basically, these two are kind of the same. Entering the body cavity, head or torso, through an open orifice. An open orifice. Okay? So these are all open orifice, as opposed to your eye is not considered an open orifice. So could you drink through your eye? Yes, you could. Okay? So if you took so having eye drops in the Shafi school is not considered an open orifice, whereas your ear drops are considered an open orifice, right? Nicotine patches, right? So somebody swallows nicotine, right? I don't know if that happens. Let's say, theoretically they're trying to quit smoking and the doctor gives them something to swallow, breaks the fast. A nicotine patch where they absorb nicotine through their skin, right? Or LSD malar protectors, right? Through their skin, right? It doesn't break the fast, right? I mean, obviously if you got high, you break your fast, but absorbing something through your skin does not break the fast. Does that make sense?
Yes.
So your fingers numb because you put some kind of numbing cream, right? So obviously you absorb something, right? And you should be able to find it in the bloodstream, I'm sure, right? But it's not considered an open orifice. So your eyes, your pores, etc. Right? Vomiting, again, I know that I can't vomit and I did it on purpose. Intercourse, I know that you can't, you knew that and you did it on purpose, right? Ejaculation resulting from skin contact or the like. So somebody did something knowing that they can't do that. So they had sexual activity knowing that they can't do that and knowing that it normally results in ejaculation. Okay, as opposed to something that does not normally result in ejaculation, right? Something random, it's not normal. So they caused it, but that doesn't normally result in that, right? So that's not an issue. Right? Or a wet dream. So a wet dream does not break the fast, right? Or somebody had intercourse while they were asleep, right? Doesn't break the fast. Right? Menstruation breaks the fast, right? And here, when a woman's fasting, and the menstruation starts while she's fasting, her fast is broken. Is she obliged to go and eat or drink? The answer is no. She's not obliged to eat or drink, but she is obliged to stop fasting, meaning in her head she's not fasting anymore, right? And so here's a question: what do we do, right, when she's not sure? Did her period start before or after Maghrib? So she was waiting for iftar. She had her iftar, and then said, "Okay, now we're going to pray." She went to the bathroom. She's like, "Oh my God, my period started." And now she doesn't know. Did her period start before Maghrib or after Maghrib? What did she do?
We assume it started after Maghrib.
Good. Did Jack die before before Sam or after Sam? After. Did the divorce happen before or after? After. Did the damage to the car happen before you took it from the shop or after you took it from the shop? Right? There's a scratch on the car. Did it happen before you picked it up or after you picked it up? We're not sure. Default is afterwards. Right? Any event is always ascribed to the latest possible time. Right? When we don't know, when there's no evidence, and you don't know, you say, I'm not sure, so you ascribe it to the latest possible time. Did the filth get onto your clothes before you prayed or after you prayed? After you prayed. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. This in reality is a sub principle of the principle. Certainty shall not be lifted with doubt. Okay, why? How are they related? Like, what's the relationship between saying, I prayed and I could have najasa before the prayer or after the prayer, but I'm going to say it's after. Or her period could have started before Maghrib or after Maghrib. I'm going to assume after. How is that related to al-yaqeen la yazul bil-shak? How is that related to the principle that we always go with what we're certain about and we ignore what we doubt?
Because the last default for her when she had checked the last time was that there was nothing, and there was nothing before that that gave her certainty to overrule that certainty.
Okay. So the two possibilities so we know that she started her period, right? And we know that she's on her period now. So every second you go back, you are leaving something that you know to something that is simply possible, right? So you are abandoning the yaqeen for the shak, right? That's what's happening, right? So there's many sub-principles of that principle, okay? So we always ascribe something to its latest possible time. when there's no evidence, right? If there is evidence, then we're not going to do that, right? Okay, now the other way around. She's not sure. Did her period end before Fajr or after Fajr? What do we do? So she just got up. The Adhan of Fajr just went. She gets up to pray Fajr, and she gets up and she goes to the bathroom, and then she checks like, oh my God, my period's ended. So was she obliged to fast that day or not?
No,
No, because
because we assume it ended after the
Mhm.
Adhan of Fajr.
right. So she's not obliged. So this is like a woman. Fajr came in. She was on a period. She's not obliged to fast. It's not valid for her to fast. And now she stopped. Now she's right. So now she's not obliged
Would
to.
she do imsak in that situation?
She doesn't have to do imsak now. I think it'd be recommended. I'm pretty sure it's recommended for her to do imsak, but she's not obliged to. As opposed to she goes to the bathroom at the adhan, and it's clear from the signs that her period stopped way earlier. Okay, she knows it wasn't this now. She knows from herself that wasn't just now. So she now knows that her period stopped way before Fajr, because Fajr just getting right. She's in the bathroom right now, and the adhan's going right now. Okay, and so she knows that her period stopped before Fajr. So now she didn't intend to fast because she didn't know she's going to be fasting, and she knows that she stopped before, so now she has to do imsak. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So now how to explain that? Here's your 14-year-old daughter who's like, oh my God, Allah is so cruel to me. I fasted the whole day, 16-hour fast, and then in the last hour, my period started. So not only is everything really bad because of PMS, right? But on top of that, Allah hates me and is basically like teasing me and making me suffer the whole day. And they, oh, sorry, didn't count. How do you explain that to her? Because she's gonna have to do qada, right? She's gonna have to make this day up. So she basically did a 16-hour fast for no reason.
I guess perhaps the method of explanation would be to highlight the fact that no effort goes unwasted in the eyes of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Right? So when you say it doesn't count technically, right? That's like somebody who's praying to Hajjud, right? And they're in sujood and they're crying in sujood and then they pass wind, right? So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala slaps in Allah doesn't appreciate that. So it's a ritual. The ritual is broken. That's all. It doesn't mean you don't get a reward. Of course you get the reward, right? So valid and reward are not the same things. Valid is a label that we put on actions to help us navigate it. That's all. It doesn't mean it's accepted by Allah, nor does it mean it's rejected by Allah. There's two different things, right? So here's a question we ask her: is Allah cruel? No. Is Allah appreciative of every small thing that we do? Yes, 100%. Does Allah ever make our efforts come to nothing? No. It's never like that. So we need to, one of the things subhanAllah teaching at Islamic school and teaching kids is people don't know who Allah is, right? They don't know just the basics of who or what Allah is. So it's really important to understand those things, right? Okie dokie, menstruation posting insanity. So insanity, any moment of insanity will break the fast completely, and apostasy, the same thing. So for 1 minute he left Islam and then he became Muslim again. He's gonna have to do qada. Okie dokie. Inshallah, we'll come back to this. Inshallah. So next week there may or may not be a class. I don't know. Because it's gonna be my Tuesday night. Inshallah, by default, I should be able to have a class, but I don't know. So just these next few weeks, it's gonna be a bit hit or miss, inshallah. إن شاء الله. وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم.